while Juventus was drawn against Ajax, Amsterdam Football Club, Ajax, and all the surrounding history with Juventus against Ajax in Europe. I thought Juventus and Ajax would match up in the semifinals of this Champions League. I predicted this matchup to occur at some point, but it's happening in the quarterfinals instead of the semifinals. It's interesting that Cristiano Ronaldo used to play for Real Madrid, and he faces off against Ajax in this Champions League because it's Ajax equals 36. Ronaldo wore the number 9 against Ajax. 9 years later, after 2010, an Italian team's going to win the Champions League again. It's Real that equals 36. Amsterdam Football Club Ajax equals 46. It is the end in Spanish Gematria that equals 46. We are talking about the Champions League drought for Juventus. The reason why Juventus are squaring up against their familiar foes again, it is because in Italian Gematria, Juventus against Ajax equals 64 in the 64th Champions League. The final is going to be at the city of Madrid, Ciudad de Madrid. For Ronaldo, Juventus Football Club equals 64. All the past matchups between Ajax and Juventus, Ajax wins the Champions League final over Juventus in the year 1973. They beat Juventus in that Champions League final. In the 1977-78 European Cup, Ajax lost to Juventus FC in penalties in 1978. The last time Juventus won the Champions League final, ironically, this was scripted as well, because Ajax and Juventus played in the final 23 years later in 1996, and then Juventus can end the Champions League drought 23 years later. This is all scripted by the Freemasonic powers that be, because in Italian Gematria, it is the word for Mason. Masone equals 23. This is why your Champions League is completely scripted through Gematria in any language out there that decodes your surrounding reality. 1996, Juventus win in penalties. The following year in the European Cup, in the semifinals, Juventus defeat Ajax in the semifinals. 2004 group stage, Juventus squared off against Ajax. 6 goals, 1 conceded. That is a lot like the final being played on 6-1, June the 1st of this year. 2009-10 Europa League stage, Juventus returned to European football after the Calciopoli punishment. Juventus beat Ajax in the round of 32. That's all the surrounding history with Juventus against Ajax. They have a really rich history against each other in Europe. And it is Ronaldo and Juventus. Gematria is exactly why the powers that be have Ajax squared up against Juventus once again in the Champions League. Juventus are going to end the Champions League spell with Cristiano Ronaldo, and they are going to play the team along the way that they last won the Champions League final against in 1996. Amsterdam Football Club Ajax. Juventus win the Champions League in 1996, as it is scripted by the Freemasons that rigged the games for the men in black and white. Because Freemason equals 96 in Gematria, that is the year 96 that Juventus won the Champions League final. They won 4-2 on penalties. It's Freemason that equals 42. The 22nd day of May was the last time Juventus won. This Champions League final is at Spain. Spania equals 22 in Gematria. Ronaldo played for Real Madrid Club de Football. Equals 58 in Gematria as well. and you look at Juventus being run by Masons, Agnelli family owning Juventus FC, and they face off against their old-time rivals again, with Ajax having a total of 33 Dutch league titles. Scripted by the numbers as it is. Juventus and Ajax again in Europe. Let me just see what Amsterdam equals in Gematria. It's Amsterdam that equals 94 and 31. Once again, Ronaldo used to play for Real Madrid. CF equals 94 in Gematria. Ajax Amsterdam. And the last thing that we need is an Italian translation for the city of Amsterdam. Looks like there is not any difference. But this is, as it is, another presentation of Gematria numerology. Juventus against Ajax by the numbers.